start recording.
Right.
All right, you can start anytime.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Daphne. All right. So yeah, today our topic is Angular component. And yeah, my name is HongTat. I'm the presenter for this round. Maybe next round will be taken by the other presenter. All right. So yeah, if you don't know about Angular, you're welcome to watch back the previous section. We have 5 in total. Yeah, and this is the 5th one. So, yep, today we're gonna start with this what is the component in Angular, okay? And after this session, you know how to generate a component using Angular CLI, and what is the file structure of a component after generated by using Angular CLI, and also you know how to define a metadata for a component, and also you learn about the component lifecycle hooks, and you know how to put a nested component is a component inside component. Okay, and also you learn how to pass the data to a component and also getting the data out from a component. Right, this will be today's agenda. Okay, other than that, you'll be covered in the next session. Okay, assuming today we only use one module. Last week we roughly talked about module. Module is a module that group component together. So because we are not touching about module, and the module will be covered in the week 6 lesson. So assuming today we are going to use one module, which is the root module. All right. All right, let us start. What is component? As I explained last week, component is actually a template. Template stands for the HTML plus the CSS is where you display the content to the user, plus the class. The class is where all the source code is, and you're doing all the automation thing in the class. So in the class, you'll find there will be a property, a lot of property, and some methods. Okay, it's a code to support the view, and it's also written in TypeScript. If you don't know about TypeScript, you're welcome to watch back the previous section. We have one section to introduce TypeScript. And yep, plus some metadata to describe about the component. So yep, this is called component. Okay, so here you'll find the component will interact with the template. So the interaction, we call it property binding. And from the template going back to a component, it is via the event binding. So maybe some input change, they'll trigger the component function. Yeah, things like that.
Can
So
you
in
please
between,
repeat this?
sorry,
Can you please repeat this?
which one?
This whole thing.
Oh, okay. You mean here again?
Yeah, I didn't get properly.
You didn't get it. Okay. Yeah, because this is the overall concept of what is a component. Okay. Yeah, I think you missed the last session because during the last session I talked about this and the higher level
Yeah.
of. Yeah. Let me show you the last session slide if I have it. Okay. Okay. All right. I think I should guide you once again from the overall from how Angular works. So Angular is actually a building block. So Angular is equivalent to many components. All right. And the components are interacting with each other via a service. Therefore, you will have a service right at the bottom. Right. This is the autonomy of Angular application. Okay. So what is a component? A component consists of a template. The template means HTML plus CSS. okay, and some supporting code to support a template. We call it a class, and within the class we have a property and method. Okay, it's like normal class. Okay, object-oriented class plus some metadata. Metadata is decorator in TypeScript. We use it to describe what is the component behavior. Okay, and yeah, later on I'll show you how what the file structure, everything. For now, you just need to know Angular is built up by many components. All right.
Yeah, and one question. If we want to communicate between the different components, so we will make service. And
This one will be covered later. For now, I tell you how to communicate component to component in the following slide. All right.
yeah,
So for now, I just introduced to you the high level
and
of Angular.
yeah, and can we introduce object-oriented programming like the classes, objects, more deeper
Um,
concepts?
yes, we'll use a lot of object-oriented programming in TypeScript.
Okay, okay. So we will discuss, right? We will, yeah,
Yeah, I think you missed that lesson. I think you need to study back the TypeScript lesson.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, and we are not going to cover because when we start Angular, we assume you already know TypeScript.
yeah, okay, okay, yeah,
Okay. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of things to cover and the lesson will never end. Right.
yeah,
So yeah, just now I mentioned to you before, um, for every Angular module, we'll have a root module. Okay. Right below the root module, we'll have a lot of component. So the purpose of having a module in Angular is to group the component together. Imagine you have one Angular application and that application will have like maybe 50 to 100 component. That component are really hard to find and you create lots of spaghetti code because it is not properly modularized. So with having the module here, we can group all the components together and those components can be interacting with each other. All right. And yep, uh, you can group them using other feature module as well. But in this section, we are not going to touch about module. All right. Assuming today we're going to use one module, which is the root Angular module, which is already built in when you create a new Angular application. Okay. So I will close this one. So let's go back to the Angular component. All right. Yep. So yeah, here right, is the overall concept of how the class and the template communicate with each other. So yeah, and it's just a concept itself. So how it works, then you really have to dig into the code. So for how it works for now, right? Component to send data to template, we go via the property binding. Later, I'll show you how. And from template, go back to the component. We will communicate via the event binding. Then I show to you how later. All right. So the metadata in between is some code to describe how this component works. Okay, this is just high level. You might get very confusing. I think, yeah, let me show you in demo. You understand more, right? So last week I introduced to you how to create a new Angular application. Yeah, if you go through the tutorial, you should be able to create a new Angular application. And yep, once you have the Angular application running, we can create a new component by using this command. Beforehand, you need to have Angular CLI installed. Okay, you can always refer to the last week session to learn about how to install the Angular CLI. All right, so generate a new component, you need to type ng generate component, okay, with the component name, okay, or there's a shortcut ng, G stands for generate, C stands for component, and you put a component name there. All right, so yeah, what you get after generating a component. So the folder. just now you type the component name, right? So you generate a folder to group all the template, class, and test file together. Okay, you create a folder and put all the code inside. And then next thing, you get a template. So the template naming will be start with your component name dot component dot html for HTML file, component name dot component dot css for CSS file, and same go to the class. The class will be a component name dot component dot ts, ts stand for TypeScript, and the test file component dot component dot spec dot ts. This test file is for you to write a unit testing or end-to-end testing. But in this session, I won't cover the test, so you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
just ignore this one. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So, yep, the file structure. Okay. So after you generate the the component, right? What you'll get is that by default in the Angular itself, you have the root component. The root component is already there after you created a new Angular application. Okay, so you'll find the name like app.component.ts, app.component.html, app.component.css. Okay, to use that, and the tag will be described in the metadata. I'll show you where later. Okay, so the symbol and the class name will be like this. Okay, if your component name is hero, okay, so your component file will be hero.component.ts and so on and so forth. Okay, and your class name will be heroes component, and your HTML tag will be app-heroes. Okay, this is where you put the component inside the web. Okay, and if you put two words together, okay, Angular is smart enough to detect there are two words, and I believe there's some tools to use to detect the component name. Okay, once they detected the component names consist of two words, they will split the word using a dash. Okay, don't be surprised if you see a dash in your file name. Okay, because Angular purposely put it so that it is more readable. And yep, if you generate a component and where your component name is consists of two words, so your component name will be your file name will be like this: hero dash list and component.ts, so on and so forth. Okay, same go to your HTML tag. You start with app dash hero dash list. All right, but to your class name, it will be a hero list component. There will be no dash in between. Yeah, look at that. Okay, this is how it works for when you use Angular CRI. Okay, all right, let me demo to you. Okay, so yep, I will stick with this Visual Studio Code because this is my favorite browser. You're welcome to use an others browser and as your preference. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. So sorry, should be zoom in. Okay, so that you can see clearer. All right, so yep, I'm gonna open up the terminal. So you can open up the terminal in View Terminal. So just now I'm using shortcut, so that's why you don't see I'm pressing something. So when your terminal show up, you redirect to the folder that you want to create a project. Okay, and here I want to go to Document, GitHub as my folder. I want to create a project, right? Then I'm using ng new, then application name, Angular study group, right? This will be my project name, and I don't want to create a routing for now because the routing section will be covered in later section, not now. So I don't want to create routing, and I would like to use CSS, and let's wait for it to install the package. All right,
Uh, is this you have installed the Angular package or Angular CLI?
Angular CLI.
Can you show the command?
I covered this command last week. Is
Yeah,
ng new
yeah,
with
yeah.
and then the application name.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay. So yeah,
Okay, got it?
yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. After the Angular project is created, I would like to open up in this. There are two ways. A manual way if you open up the folder here and you go to Angular study group and then you click open. This is one way. I think this would be the easiest one. Yeah, if you know how to type command, that will be faster. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So last week I roughly tell you the folder structure. So I won't cover here. So and then yep, we would like to create a new component here. But before we create a new component, I think before we create a new component, we need to clear the existing code. Okay. And in this packages.json, I would like to add a command here to automatically open whenever I start the application. All right. So I covered this in the last section as well. Okay. Yep. So we have a root component called app.component.html. Okay. This will be our main page. And then we have the app.component.ts, right, with the title called Angular Study Group. So we can remove this as well. So this is not important for now. And then we'll have a CSS here. Okay. And our root module will be this app.module.ts. All right. So in this root module, we already declare this component will be parked under this module. So we have the Angular component here. All right. So let us start generating a new component. Let me close off so that not to confuse you. ng generate component, and then I'll put a component name. All right. So if you come back to the slide, today I'm going to show you how to create a to-do list, a simple one. Okay. So the to-do list, we'll have the app root. App root, this one will be the app.component. Let me show you where. So after we generate a new component, you'll see this selector will be app-root. Okay. So we'll have the app component here. And then we'll have the app module on top of it. Okay. And then we're going to create one component and park this component under this app.component. Okay, as a child. Okay, let me show you how. And then we have a to-do list. Okay. All right. And then it is created. So whenever you type ng generate component, right, if the default folder will go to app. Okay, let me show you the difference here. Okay, there are three levels to see the Angular project structure. Okay, the higher level is like on the left hand side. Okay, but all of our source code will be putting into the source folder. Okay, so the following file on the below are the setting file. Okay, then come to the middle one. All our source code will be putting here, and then, but whenever we start developing something, all the component, services, everything will be putting in the app folder.
You mean
Okay,
by default?
by default, yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, so here we have our app folder. Okay, so come back here. So just now I just type ng generate component to do list. It automatically go to the app folder. See? Yeah, and in this app folder, we'll have a to-do list folder. And then within this to-do list folder, we'll have a class. Okay, here we go. Okay, and then, so this one is the metadata to describe about the component. And then we'll have a CSS file. It's empty for now. And the HTML file with a sample to do this works. Okay, and yeah, this is it. Simple, isn't it? Okay, let's get deeper. Okay, so in order to park this component in the app component, we need to, first of all, we need to declare it in the app module, which means we are going to declare the to-do list component within this module. So by default, it will automatically help you to add it into the app.component. Okay, so now we have it declared here. So we no need to do anything for now. Okay, so and then we come to the app component.html. Okay, so how do we know what to put in this HTML? You need to come to the to-do list component. All right, so you find the selector here. Okay, this will be our element tag element. Okay, you can either copy this or you just type it by your own. Okay, like this, and then it will work. Okay, to run it, we just have to type npm start, and it will build and it'll show it in the localhost. And just now, I put a -o at the back, so it'll show up in the browser automatically. All right, so you see a to-do list works.
We need to
Okay,
pass every component in a calling component into the root module, right? So that it can work.
so for now, yes, because a root module is is grouping all the component together. Okay, you have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
declare it at least on the root level. Okay, if let's say you have other module, then you can declare it on other module level, then you can do the import. Okay, you see the import folder here. You can import the other module here, and then you can use other module and the component in other module. Okay,
Import. Yeah, import means that we are somehow using any other component from root module.
um
Yeah.
yep.
And
Okay,
the export means
export, that means you're going to export the module, export the component out from this module so that the other module can use this component by importing this module.
can you just show me more example, like to
I
more clarify?
understand. Yeah, I understand you're eager to learn, but I'm not covered this in this module. And if you are seeing the
Yeah,
plan, right?
I will ask you in personal WhatsApp
Yeah,
if
if
I
you
require. Yeah,
ask
yeah.
ask me personally, then I will tell you.
Sure.
But
But you will,
here,
yeah.
yeah,
So you will
here
cover
we
this
have,
later, right?
yep, and
Okay,
in this
sure,
date,
sure. Yeah,
okay.
sure, sure, sure. No problem. Yeah, yeah.
There's also another question from Sanjeev, whether we can change the root component name app to something else like XYZ.
Yes, definitely you can. Root component name is here. You come the app.component.ts. You just change the selector.
Mhm.
Okay, after you change this selector, you have to come to index.html and change here as well, and then it'll work. It can be any other name.
Mm,
Okay,
okay, thanks.
all right, thank you. Okay, yep, and then yeah, by now we should be able to create a new component, right? Let's move to the next. Okay, the component metadata. Okay, just now after I create a new component, right, you'll see code like this showed up in the TS file, the TypeScript file, right? This file generally is to tell the Angular, okay, we will use this component and the selector, please use the name here. Okay, we'll use this name as a selector. That means if we put this selector into an element as an element name, you run this component. All right, and we're going to link the template URL to here. Okay, and also we're going to use the style sheet, this one. You can put more than one because it's an array. Yeah, it is totally up to your choice to put more than one, but for now I'm going to show one. All right, so yeah, the selector. If you use the selector app.todo list, then you have to put it into the HTML like this, so that the component will show up in the app component. All right, and yeah, you're allowed to change the prefix as well. Okay, by default they'll use an app as the default one. Okay, but you always can go to the angular.json under the project, and then your project name. This is your project name, and under prefix you can change the name here. So on next time when you generate a new component, a new service, okay, the prefix they'll change to another one. Normally people prefer to call it in your project name. For example, I have the project called Mercury in my company, so they name it as Mercury. All right, so it's totally up to your choice. You want to change it or not. Okay, so the template URL template here. Okay, just now I show you is a link to another file where you can put all the HTML code into a file, and you import into this component and use it here. Okay, but sometimes people say, okay, I want to have a template and the TypeScript file within one file. I don't want to separate few files because it's easier for me to see. And yeah, you can do so by using a template property here instead of using template URL. Okay, if you use the template property here, and you can put a HTML code within this property, and the symbol here is called backtick. Is the one right is the in your keyboard. It is sitting right beside the one. Okay, so we call it backtick. So after you put backtick, right, you can write your HTML code within this property. Okay, and it will work. Okay, so it's totally up to you. But to me, right, I feel like this template URL will be cleaner than having the template inline. All right. And same go to the style. Instead of reference the style in another file, you can also put the style in line in this file as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, but it's not good practice to actually write in this section, because we can just have the file name and we can just separate code in the separate file. Yeah.
Yes, it's totally up to you because some people, they have their own use case and they would like to have the style within a file. So yeah, we cannot stop how other people want to do, right? So yeah, Angular give two choices for you to choose. It's totally up to your preference. All right, there's no right or wrong. And yep, the third thing I would like to share is that the style isolation. Okay, so I should put some animation here, I suppose. All right, so if you look at the left-hand side, right, the first box that we have, right, this is a root CSS and the root HTML file. Okay, so in the root CSS file, we have the H1 and we styled the text into green. Okay, and you look at the right hand side, we have a big box and we call it a root component, for example. And within this root component, we have a H1. You look at the HTML file here, we have a H1 and it will automatically turn it into green color because we have the CSS here define it as a green color. Okay. And then we have a child component right at the bottom. Okay. And then we
So
come,
what you mean by root component is a app module?
mod, module is an module. Root component is the
Root
app.
component is,
This one, this file we call it a root component. This one, this file.
yes, 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 yes.
This is
So
a
you,
root component.
yeah, so you mean that uh, we can create further more components in the root component?
Not to say create more component, but we can put many component under root component.
Okay, but some
Yeah, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's something confusing. There are two things, like if we have app.module.ts and we have app.component. So
yep. You want to know the difference or
yeah,
how?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
App.module, yeah, app.module is just for basically grouping the components.
Yes, it's for grouping only. So ignore about app.module for today. Okay. So we're
Okay,
not going to touch here. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Okay. So whenever we're going to start an Angular application, all right, app.component.ts, which I call it a root component, is the first component that it's going to load at the first time. Therefore, we call it a root component. You got what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. You mean that it's a root component, and inside that component we will create another and call the other components.
Yep. You
Yeah,
can put other child component into the root component.
yeah, yeah.
This is
Okay,
how we do
got
it.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
got it. Yeah.
Okay, let's come back here. All right. So the app dash root is our root component, right? And we have the H1 here, and we start it as green. Okay. And then you look at the left-hand side bottom. This is our child component. Okay. We style the H1 into the red color, and within our child component HTML file, we have the H1 here as well. So the H1 here will follow the style within the component. All right. It won't refer to the top one unless we allow to. All right. So yep, we call it the style isolation. That means whatever style that we define in the root component, it will not affect the child. Okay. However, we can disable this by using encapsulation, the view encapsulation none. So when you have this defined here, you'll see the root component and, sorry, not this one, you'll see the child component will override the root one. So it'll become the red as well.
Oh yeah,
Okay. Yep. So you
yeah.
have to define it. Okay. So you'll share the CSS. Okay. So yeah, it is totally up to your preference to turn it on and off. But to me, I would prefer
Can
it
can can
to,
can you explain again the encapsulation part, please?
oh, the encapsulation part is actually to isolate the style, and it is quite abstract and there are few value into it. Okay. Actually, I don't think I want to cover it here. Just that I try to
Sure.
yeah. Just that I try to introduce to you, right? If let's say you don't want to have the style isolation, okay, you can
Yeah,
turn
you
it
don't
off
want
by
to
using
cover.
this one.
Okay.
Yeah, because okay, it is quite confusing if I tell you here. Encapsulation. There are 4 value in total. Okay, 4 value in total. So the one I tell you to set to avoid the style isolation is this one, none. Okay, and the default value is emulated. That means they'll have an emulation within the component. So the style will be different to the root one. Okay, so the default value will be this one emulated. Okay, the native one is already deprecated. So that means Angular actually don't encourage people to use this value anymore. That's why there's a cross. Okay, and the shadow DOM. Why I'm not encourage you to use the shadow DOM, because not every browser supports shadow DOM. If you open up the Angular application using a mobile app, sometimes you see some apps, right? They'll have the in-app browser. Okay, those browsers definitely cannot support shadow DOM. So if you force the Angular app to turn it on, it will work for some browser, but for most of the browser, it will not work. So there's no point. I try to introduce this to you. So therefore, I only tell you this emulated, this which is our default value. If you don't mention anything, you go to 0. And if you set it to none, it will disable the style isolation. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yep. So okay. So the next thing, this keyword column host. Okay. This is quite important as well. If you were to style something, okay, if you go to the your child component, all right. So the top part is still same as previous. The only difference that I do here is that just now I talked about style isolation, right? That means the root component CSS cannot inherit by the child component. Okay, but somehow the child component is able to change their parent's component CSS. Okay, by using the column host. Sometimes there'll be some use case, right? The child component is required to set the parent's component CSS. So in order to do so, we can use a column host, and then we search for the H1 and we turn it into red color.
So you
Okay.
mean that there are two ways to basically override the
Yep.
parent functionality. Yeah, one is view
Yes.
encapsulation and second is host C1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this one got some limitation. Okay. It can only change the parent component only. Okay. If let's say I have a component called to-do list item, then it can only change the to-do list component here. Okay. It cannot go to the root component. Okay. Same go to
Means
the app.to-do list. Okay. If
means
you, okay,
what you mean?
what I mean here is that it can only change the parent's component CSS. Parents
Mm-hmm.
only, it's not grandparent.
Yeah. Okay.
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 As you saw in the previous slide, can encapsulation can change the grandparent means grandparent style.
Uh, this one view encapsulation is we disable the style isolation. This is not to mean, this is not meant for change the parent style, all right? Is we centralize
Okay.
all the CSS into one global file. Okay,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not,
I got it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, but if the child component would like to change the parent component CSS, they can always use the column host. Okay. Yep. Let me show you some demo. Okay. So, yep, I'm going to create a H1 here. All right. Hello parent. Okay. And we're going to set the CSS. here, H1, color red. All right. So, and when we come here, so we have another H1 and hello, ciao, and we set the CSS here, H1, and color green. All right. So then we come to here. So you see one red, one green. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what next? Oh yeah, I should follow the sequence here. Sorry. So sorry. So selector. I think selector I demo to you already. So after we created this component, you copy this one and put it into the HTML file. It will work. Okay. And the next one is style URL, template URL and template. So let me copy this. No. Come to here. Remove this one and template. Okay, backtick, then a comma. Okay, we can put our code here. All right, and you see the color is actually same as the color in this file. Okay, Visual Studio Code is quite good, right? And yep, this will work. Where is it? Yeah, see. Okay, and the third thing is the style URL and style. Right, let me undo this because I want to use template URL. Okay, so next, style. Okay, but you still have to put the array and then followed by backtick. All right, then you can have H1 color red. Okay, this will work as well. Okay, but I'm not going to use this one.
Green.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm not going to use the style. I'm going to use the file one. Yep.
Yeah, that's why
So
it is a good practice.
yeah, so your code will look cleaner. Okay, and the style isolation. Just now I show you already. You see the child component, which has a H1, is different color than the one in the parent component. Okay, and then we disable the style isolation. Okay, if we were to disable the style isolation, then we remove this one first because they share one style only, which is the one in here, the red color. Okay, if let's say we don't want to define here, okay, then we come back here, H1, color red. Okay, and do we have the H1 here? Yep. So it's one way down, so it should be this one. Should be here. Oh, I haven't put a tag here yet. Encapsulation, view encapsulation dot none. Eh,
I think you need to do declare the property in the parent to overwrite.
think it shouldn't be here. It should be global. Sorry, it should be global. Yeah, here. Yep. Sorry.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? What's the problem? Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. So whatever we have in the global. Okay. So if let's say you try to change something in the child, right? Okay, with this, it will not affect the global CSS here. Okay, it will have its own. Okay, so it will have its own. If let's say we turn it off, okay, the encapsulation. That means we have a style isolation. That means this style will be remain on this component only. Okay, if let's say we have the encapsulation, this one set to none, right? This will override the global one here.
So now what will be the output? Green green. Can you show?
So
Green green, right?
yep.
Okay,
See,
can you show? But they are both, they are red and green.
this one it won't, because if you want to use to change this one, both green. Okay, I think we put here. This one we put
To red.
gray. Okay,
Yeah. Okay, red. Okay.
yeah. See,
Yeah, but I want to just override. So what will do?
you want to
The
override. First of
I
all,
want to override.
you don't turn this on. Okay, you don't turn this on. You can override it first of all. Okay, so that you have your own style. That means you
Uh,
do your own CSS don't interfere with another component CSS.
um, no, I want to say that I want to override the child CSS to the parent. Like in this case, there are green and red. I want both green.
You want both green, then
Yeah,
you have to put or, unfortunately.
yeah.
But to do so, I would encourage you to set it into global. Why not you just straight away set it here? If you want both green.
No, but that was not actually isolation. I mean,
Yes,
that
it
was not.
is. Yeah, I
I mean,
know, I
yeah,
understand. Yeah, I
yeah.
understand what you're saying here. So we can do here. Okay. Okay, hold on. Okay. We can do something here like this, and you'll see a different one also. But if I were to remove this one, you see both green. See?
Green, red. I think green and red.
No, it's green only. Because the child component here is already override the global one. Sorry, it should be red. Green and red. Yeah, you're right.
Some confusing.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll find out more for you. Yeah, but
Maybe
the
you can
encapsulation,
try it out yourself and you will probably
because
learn
yeah,
a bit.
because for CSS, right, it has its own rules one. CSS rules, you have to follow the precedence. I believe you have to follow the precedent of the CSS, because it's not something I want to write, then it will overwrite the style. Yeah, so it's really hard for me to display here. And yeah, you could be you could study first, then share with us also, if that's the case. Okay. Yeah, so sorry about that.
What? What? What do you say? Repeat. Can you repeat?
Yeah, you can later on I'll share in the WhatsApp group. Is that okay?
What we
Okay.
can
Okay.
do is that we can look into it since we all are like right now trying to learn together and all, and maybe it's something we are missing at the end, and we can get back to you. You can also look into this. If you find the solution or any one of us find the solution first, we'll post it into the WhatsApp group. Let's
Yeah.
move forward so that doesn't a lot of
Yeah.
time doesn't get stuck.
Yeah. That will be great.
Yeah, if I'm going to troubleshoot and find out more, right? I think we're going to exit very long time. I still got a lot of things to share. Yeah,
Yes, yes,
not
please
that
discuss it
yeah,
further. Thank you.
yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll come back to you later about this. Yeah, personally I find you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so building a nested component. Yeah. Just like I say about creating a child component, right? Just now we have the to-do list app already. Then we can create a child. So I'm going to stop this. Okay, let's create another one. Ng generate component to do list to do item. All right. Okay, you create another folder here called to do item. And then within the to do item, it is the same. You have the HTML file and the component file here. And yep, I'm going to pack this to do item to this to do list. Okay. So first of all, we go to do item, go to the component file here. We copy the selector. Okay. And then you come to the HTML file here. And then you create an element, element like this. Okay. And then you start the Angular project. And this is how we append the child. And later on, I'm going to demo to you how we can utilize this child. Okay. And you'll see this to-do item here. So you have a grandparent. This is parent. This is child. Okay. Right. Okay. And the binding here. So the binding here, which means we can pass some information from the parent component to the child component. All right. So yeah, look at the diagram on the left. So we have the root component here, and then we pass a variable called count into the child component. Okay, how we can do it? In our child component, we have to declare an input. Okay, look at the tag, alias, input, and with a bracket here. Okay, this is we call it decorator. Okay, and on the bottom we have a variable called count. Okay, we have to declare this too, and then in our element here, app.to-do list, which is referring to this child component, we will have an attribute called count. Okay, in order to pass the information to this child component, we have to use a bracket and then followed by the variable name.
Count is the default attribute or
It's not
something.
default attribute. It's
So how we
you
are defined?
created by your own.
But the count here in the to-do list is something which I can bind with the value, the count. That is actually that variable. But what is this attribute? Is this built in?
Whenever you created a property within the to-do list component, okay, the attribute will be auto-populated. Not to say auto-populated, but you can put whatever thing with it. If the name is same as the property name, it will auto pass the information over to this variable. I'll show you later, all right? I'll show you later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll show you now. Yep, okay. I'm going to remove this encapsulation thing because normally we seldom use it. Okay, seems here. Okay, so let's look at this diagram. We have a root component and we have a child component is to-do list. So we ignore the to-do list item first. Okay, so we go to this. Let me close everything. Okay, let me open up this file. Okay, here we go. So first of all, in order to pass the information to this component, we need to create an input. So, yep, with a backlet. And then we can define our attribute name. Okay, we call it count. Okay, it's a number. Okay, by default, we want it to be 0. Okay, if you don't want it to be now, now, then you can straight away remove the equal to 0. But by default, we want it to be 0. Okay, and then the template binding, I think in our next session, we'll cover that one. For now, I'm going to show you P, the count here. Okay, so that means whenever we have a property here, if you were to display it in the HTML file, we need to use a curly bracket. It's a double curly bracket. Okay, and then the information here, right, you'll refer to the property here. Okay, for now, you just need to know we can bind like this way. Okay, we'll cover in a later section. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and once we have this input, okay, how do we know the parent class actually send a number into this child? Okay, we need to come to the app component here. All right, so in this app component, we're going to create a property as well called count, maybe called parent count, not to confuse you. It's a number as well. We have a default value called 0. Okay, then we're going to create a button here. Okay, okay. The bracket here means an event. I'm going to cover it later. Okay, so for now, you know, we are actually handling a click event here. And then in this, we can create a function, button, click, okay, with it written now. And then we're gonna copy this to the front end and execute it, okay, whenever you click, all right? So, and then the next thing here, whenever we click the button, this dot parent count plus plus. That means we keep adding one every time we click it. Okay. And yep, we're going to give a name here. Click me. Okay. And then after we have this property, and we can pass this property value into the child component square bracket count. Okay. It showed up here as an attribute because we declared in here. Okay. And then put the equal sign, and then we pass the property into this count attribute. Okay, and the child will actually display the count value here. All right, let's see. So you have a button here. When you click, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, like this.
So that's a property value by binding or two-way binding?
This is one way.
Hmm?
One way binding from
Okay.
parent to child. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so that's why I put a arrow here. It's one way. Okay, and then sometimes we want to raise an event to a parent class, or we need to send some value to a parent class. Okay, we need to use this output. Okay, I think let me all right. So how to create output attribute? First of all, in this child component, okay, we need to create a tag called decorator called the allied output. Then we have a bracket here. Okay, then the output will be an event. Okay, it is not sending a value to a parent, but it will trigger an event. Okay, so whenever we trigger an event, we want to admit a number. Okay, this is how it works. Then we declare this event property. All right. Whenever we have whenever we click have an event class button click event function, button click, and then within this function, we will plus one of the count, okay, and then we will admit this value by calling this property, this dot count change dot admit, then we put a number in it. Okay, this is how we can admit the value to the parent. Okay, and how parent can handle this output. Change. Sorry, I think I made some mistake here. This name, the count change. Okay, so in the parent class, we have a bracket, and this should be a count change. Okay, I'm
Oh, so
sorry about this.
it should be reflecting the
Yes,
property which we have. So it will be automatically the
yes,
yeah.
yes. So it must follow the name here, count change. Okay, and you go here, this name should be count change. Okay, and then you have a function here to handle the event, and then the number here, right? Yeah, will be passing by using this $ event. Okay, sorry, is anyone talking? Yeah.
If you're not talking, please mute yourself on mute.
Yeah, I think we can mute them, right? Yeah. So, yep. So the number will be passing through the event. The $ event is a fixed variable. You just use this one, and then you'll be passing it into this function. And then, so yeah, in this function, you get the count as a parameter. Okay. Okay, let me show you this one. Okay, come back to the component. Let me remove this one, not to confuse everyone. Okay. Okay, let's come here. I remove the input. Okay, let me create an output. Okay, then I have event name. Event name, we call it count change. Okay. So by default, we have 0. And then in this to-do list component, we're going to create a button, put a name here, click child. Okay, so great. And then we have a function here. So to handle the click event, okay. And then we're gonna create a function in the class later. So for now, we give a name button click. Okay, you'll get a red line here because we haven't created the function yet. Okay, let's come here and create a function. Okay, and then return nothing, void. And then here, we need to handle the count. Before we handle the count, we need to create a property here called count. And then it's a number. 0. Okay, sorry about this. This should be a event emitter.
A new event, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Emitter. And then we need to strong type it. Then we put a number here. Okay.
Whatever we are just sending, either it be a number, object, or string, we will pass it there, right?
Yes. If let's say you didn't mention anything here, it will be any. Any that means this the object going to pass it to parent is not strong type. Okay. So yeah,
so you
here
can
we
use
tell them.
any here. So you can use any here
Yes.
also. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. We can use. Okay. So for now, I want to pass number because TypeScript is meant for strong type. So we need to use a strong type here. So this dot count change dot admit. Okay. Then we put the number here. This dot count. Okay. But before we admit this number, we need to +1 first. Okay. Plus. All right. So that means whoever handle this event, so whenever I click the button, it will +1 and then admit this event with the count here. Okay, so we come to the parent class. Okay, we need to remove this one. Yep, this is not working anymore. We remove it. Okay, to handle the event, we need to copy this one. And then if it is an event, we need to use a bracket. Okay, just like what I use for click. Okay, click is a built-in event, but the count change is an event created by me. Okay, so we're gonna create a function called count change as well, and the parameter gonna be an event. This is a fixed one because whatever we admit, it will be passing into this $ event. Okay, the $ event will pass the number into this function.
This event is just a input. The controller name, we will get whole control.
Controller name.
I mean that.
Sorry.
I mean that. Let's say button or input. So we will get whole input here in event.
No. We'll get
Okay.
the count only because I admit the count. See here, I admit the count. So the
Okay.
count will be transformed into the $ event and pass it into this function. Okay, so here I remove this one and I create a function with count as a parameter and then return nothing, and then we handle this here. Okay, we remove the button here, then we bind the count here, P, then we have the count here. We need to create a count property. Default is 0, and then this dot count is equal to 0. All right.
0 or the number which we are getting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm looking at this to-do list. Okay, I haven't saved it. So I show error.
Yeah, because there are round brackets. There should be round brackets instead of a square for
No,
property. Yeah,
no. Output will be a round bracket.
yeah.
Input will be a square bracket. Okay, because I haven't saved the
Uh,
file. Therefore you see some error there.
okay.
Right. So I put a button into a child component. Can when I click, you change. See? Okay.
Great, great. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing the concept. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So this is how it works. All right. So the next thing gonna be interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Two-way. Two-way will be slightly different.
Yeah.
Is yeah. You have one single property, then you pass in into the child component at the same time, it will return you the value as well. So it's two-way binding. Okay, how we can do that? First of all, we need to create an input, and the name is your preference. For in this use case, I call count. Okay, and then we need to create an output as well. Okay, and the format must be the input name plus the change, and the change must be capital letter. Okay, and it must be a event emitter as well. It's the same as before the output, just that the naming part we have to match according to the naming convention here. Okay, in this case, if let's say we have a count here, then in output we need to name it as count change. Okay, next. Okay, to use that, just now the input is square bracket, the output is round bracket. Now two-way binding, we have to put two bracket, but the square bracket has to be outside, the round bracket has to be inside, then followed by the attribute name. Okay. Okay, let me show you how. Let me remove everything first. It's quite messy. Yeah. No, I don't need this. Okay, and then we need to clear the to-do list here.
So
Remove everything.
is this the same? It will work for the two different components,
Yes.
like through input and output. We can just communicate between two different components, right?
Yes.
Not necessary child or parent.
Two-way, yes. Let me show you. I'm not sure whether the one I'm gonna show is the one you're talking about, but let me show you first. Later on, if let's say it's different idea, then yeah, let me know. Okay. So first of all, we need to come to the child component. Okay. Two things, input and output. So the input, we gonna put the input here and the bracket. Then we call it count as a number. Then default value 0. If you don't want default value also, no problem. So, and then the output, okay, the bracket, and then followed by, we need to follow the naming convention, count, change, okay, and then it will be a new event emitter, and it will accept number, okay. So, yep, we're done. And then we need to create a button here, so it will handle the click. So, yep. So round bracket is to handle the event, click event, and then we need to create a function called button click. Okay. And then we need to paste the function, create a function here. All right. and then we return nothing, call void. Okay, so now we have the button handle. All right. So yeah, to handle the output, this dot count, still we need to add it plus plus. Okay, and then this dot count change dot event. Okay, sorry, dot admit, and then we still have to put the this dot count into it. By doing so, we can admit this value to the parent. Okay, we are done with the child component, and then let us handle it in the parent. So in parent class, we have a property called count. Okay, and then we need to handle it here. So square bracket come first, then followed by the round bracket, then we have the count. Okay, and then equal to count.
Why we use round bracket and then square bracket inside?
Two-way binding.
Okay.
Two-way binding. Okay, square bracket is input, round bracket is output. In order to do two-way, will be input and output. All right. Okay, let me show the value here as well. Okay, then we have a count here. I want to show the count in the child as well. So that we know they are the same. Let me save everything. Save. Right, it should be working. Okay, so this is parent. This is child. I'm not sure why we got 0. Probably we need to clean up. So yeah, you see. Okay. So if you come back here. So in order to handle two-way binding in parent class, you need to set this square bracket and round bracket, and you auto bind to the property that you assign here. Okay, this is two-way, and we are done with the demo here.
Okay, can you just elaborate again? A quick sum up.
Quick sum up of.
A quick
Okay.
sum up of this, yeah.
Okay. So yep, for one-way binding, from parent to child, we need to use an input in the child. Okay, and the attribute name will be the property name in the child class. Okay, and then we passing using a square bracket. This is one-way binding from parent to child. Okay, and in order for child to pass the value into to parent, we are using event. Okay, to declare an event, we need to use a output decorator. Okay, so the property name will be the event name. Okay, we need to use the event emitter to admit. So we can put a type here. You can strong type the value that you want to pass it to parent. Okay, so every time we have a change, then we need to call the count change dot admit. Admit means to pass to raise an event to a parent class so that they can accept this new value. Okay, this is output. Okay, to handle the output, we use a round bracket. Okay, so all the value will be handled by the $ event. Okay. Okay, two-way binding, we need to create an input and output. Then input will have the input decorator. Output, we need to have the output decorator, and also the name must be same, must follow the naming convention, which is the input name plus change. Okay, and the output must assigned as an event emitter. Okay, so to handle the two-way binding, we use a square bracket in the outside and the round bracket in the inside on the inside. All right. So this is how we handle two-way binding. All right. Okay. The last part. Yeah, I think we are quite late this time. Yeah, I try to brief you through. Okay. For every component, we'll have some lifecycle hook. All right. If let's say you work on ASP.NET before, ASP.NET, there's some lifecycle hook as well. On init, on page load, things like that. So in Angular component, we have a lifecycle hook as well. So the lifecycle hook here, there are some meanings behind this lifecycle hook. Okay, so first of all, let me show you how we can use the lifecycle hook here. A simple one. Okay, so if you look at here on init, this is one of the lifecycle hook. That means everything is ready. So we can use the input to pull value from a backend server or whatsoever. All right. But in order to implement this one, we need to implement the interface. Okay. So this is how we can implement this lifecycle hook. Let me explain one by one. All right. So we have quite a few one, but the most important one, right, is the constructor, ng on init, and ng on destroy. These are the lifecycle hook. We use it quite often, right? And unlike the other one, you might use it, or sometimes you might not. Okay. In my example just now, we don't use it, right? So yep. Let me go to the first one, constructor. So every class will have one constructor by default, because we need the constructor here to inject the dependency injection here. So this is where our dependency injection happen here. And there'll be a section to cover the dependency injection here. And I won't touch here because if dependency injection is another huge topic to discuss about. All right. So yeah, if you want to know what is a dependency injection, probably I can show you one. Okay, in this constructor, by default, it'll generate one for you. Okay, we can inject the router. Okay, and then this router is actually bind with the Angular already. Is a default value. And you can use it to get the route information, like the query parameter and the route name, route path, things like that. From where to where, you can use this route to do it. Okay, so this is how we handle the dependency injection. You might be wondering what are the dependency injection we can use. Yeah, I think I will let the other section to cover this one. Okay, so we only handle the dependency injection here, and other than that, I don't think we'll handle the logic part here. Okay, because the logic shouldn't be handled here in constructor. Okay, the next thing will be the ng on changes. Okay, so the ng on changes lifecycle here is where the input that we created just now, I showed you just now, there are some value change. Okay, so before after the constructor, then we'll pass some input into this component, right? So the component will trigger this ng on changes here. Okay, whenever you receive a new value from the input, you might want to do something with it. Maybe use this input to call server API to get more data, or you use this input to change some value in the property, things like that. So you can use the ng on changes. All right. So to use the ng on changes, you come back to the component here. So you need to implement on changes here. Okay. Then you'll show you an error. Don't worry. You can always go to the light bulb, the blue light bulb, implement the interface. Okay. And then you have the ng on changes here. Okay. Remove the throw error here, then put your implementation. See what you want to do here. Every time the input change, they'll trigger this function. Okay. So you can do the implementation every time the input change. All right. But okay, the next thing, ng on init. All right. ng on init is the component is ready. That means the input is already ready. You can do something, or the component, the HTML is also loaded where you can do something. Normally, if we were to for the first time, if we were to do some call API or modify some model, we will do it in the ng on init here. Okay, but why is it ng on changes is before ng on init? Because ng on changes, right? Every time the component initiate, the input definitely will change because the input is passing from the parent component. All right. So after we detected the change, we'll trigger this one and followed by the ng on init. That means our input is already ready for consuming. Therefore, the ng on init will happen only one time, which the component starting. Okay. But the ng on changes, right, will happen every time the input is changed. Okay. So that means, right, if we were to do something with the component initialized, we need to do something in this ng on init. And instead of doing something in the constructor, Angular actually recommend the developer to put everything into the ng on init. Okay. So the next life cycle is
We will do
ng.
this in detail,
Sorry.
right? We will do this in detail.
Again, sorry, I don't get your
Uh,
question.
will we cover this in detail with examples?
I don't have any example for you actually, to be
Okay, okay,
honest.
okay.
Yeah, because it depends on your use cases.
Okay, okay.
Sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't use it. Yeah, if for example, like the ng on changes, you don't use it most of the time, but ng on init, that means, right, every time component starting, you want to do something with the input, and then you need to put some code into the ng on init. There, you will use it. Okay, but sometimes you don't want to do anything in the ng on init, then we don't use it. So it's really hard to give you example on this. All right. And the ng do check, this one is really hard to tell. Okay, so I give you one example here. Let me try to draw something. I think I can do it here. Okay, do a blank one. Okay, let's say I input a shape. I need 3. Okay. Okay. For example, this is DOM. DOM is document object model. If you don't know what is DOM, right, you can actually go to study the first section. Yeah, we covered this DOM. Okay. Angular.
DOM, document object model.
No,
Uh,
document object model.
did we cover?
We already covered
In
in the first
TypeScript?
section. No, this is for HTML.
Yeah. Okay. I know. Okay.
Okay, and this is your component. Okay, all right. So if you use Angular, now I know we can draw. Okay, if you use Angular, normally we go through Angular, and then the Angular will update the DOM. DOM means HTML. Okay, to be precise, then it'll be another thing. For now, I think simple terms, right? It represents the HTML. Okay, so the component will go through Angular to change the document object model. That means to change the HTML display. Okay. Okay. Sometimes if you use a third-party library like jQuery, I think this is not new to you, right?
Yeah, maybe new for some. Yeah.
Yeah, for some maybe new, but for some of you, this is not new. Or you straight away use JavaScript, JS, okay, directly from here to change the thing here.
Can we have separate session on jQuery also?
No, sorry, jQuery not supposed to use together with Angular.
Okay.
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 Yeah, if you try to do something directly to the DOM, right? Okay, without going through Angular, this guy probably will not know what happened. Yeah, and the DOM change. So whatever keep here, right, will not be synchronized with the DOM. Okay, Angular and the DOM value different already. All right, whenever it detected different, it will actually trigger this function called ngDoCheck. Okay, the description here, detect and act upon changes that Angular cannot or won't detect on its own. That means you change directly to the DOM. Okay, but there's some heads up if you want to implement this function, because this function will call too frequent, and no matter whatever event change, right, it will trigger this function. If let's say you write a heavy function into this ngDoCheck, it will actually cause some performance issue to your application. All right, so a lots of people actually will recommend you to avoid this lifecycle hook. Okay,
Why any reason?
because whatever changes, right, the Angular detected, and
Yeah.
it will trigger this function. Okay,
Okay.
and it will come from anywhere because Angular cannot detect. So it doesn't, it is not like ng on changes, because if you look at ng on changes, right, you know the input is changed. So we can do something to the input. So it wouldn't trigger too many times, only if the input is changed. But to this ngDoCheck, right, it can come from anywhere. It could be the event handler, it could be some timer, it could be some location change. You do it without Angular knowing. Therefore, it will call to this function to synchronize with Angular. So this function will be called too many times. That's why the expert will tell you to avoid this lifecycle hook is possible. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yes. Suppose I have an example, like I have a toggle button, which has two value. I mean, not a value on just enabling it to true. I've got the theme dark, and when it enable it to false, like to on or off, when on the theme will be dark, and when off the theme will be light. So in this
yep,
way, the ng init will be run, right? Because whenever I want to, let's say last time I have just make it to the on mode, like it is the dark mode. So, okay,
Mhm.
so when I just sign out of the application and run back again, and run the application again after just redirecting from the sign out, then the application shows the dark theme, right? And and the button and the on and off button should be on. So how to tackle this thing through ng init and to this two-way binding? Like when we last time just sign out from the application, we have signed out from the dark theme. Okay, so when
Yeah,
again we have sign in, it will show us dark theme but with on toggle value to toggle button.
I see. So in your case, right, you want to set the value back to the
Yeah,
toggle button. You need to go through the
on.
ng on init. Yep, you're right. It's here for the first time because okay, um, because other than ng on changes and ng do check, you run every time there's a value change. The rest will run only one time. Okay,
Yeah.
so in your case, right, you need to set it in ng on init.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, so we cover ng on changes, ng on init, and ng do check. Okay, the yellow part is are actually the view part. All right, ng after content init is if let's say we use a templating in the HTML, the templating called ng-content or ng-template. Okay, and then it will init here. Okay, that means you want to do something before the template change. And after the content check, that means the content is already converted it into the DOM object. Okay, and you want to do something in this content. Okay, and eventually you will convert it into view. Okay, that's why after the content converted into view, then we have the view init. The view here is actually referring to the component in this case. Okay, here we call it a view. Whatever we listed here, we call it a view. Okay, if sometimes there's a use case, we can use the ng content. This one. Okay, this one you can put a lot of HTML code here, and you can do something here. Okay, and this one is required to convert to a native one like this. Then you continue running. Okay, so that's why we have two parts here. The first part will be the ng after content init and ng after content check. This one is to convert the template. The next one, after the template is converted and together with the default element in the template, in the HTML file, then we'll run the lifecycle hook here. Okay, up until this part, okay, and up until the yellow area here. So the whole component will be initialized and running. Okay, and whenever the component is dying means we are trying to navigate from one page to another page. It will trigger the ng on destroy. Okay, ng on destroy here is very useful because if you know there's a third-party component called RxJS. This is another very high learning curve area. I
Yeah.
think Angular, yeah, Angular use a lot of it. Um, I'm not sure whether I need to cover or not because even though if you don't know NGRX, you can still develop application in Angular. So yeah, come back to here. ng on destroy line is where you need to destroy the subscription in NGRX. And that's the only purpose of ng on destroy. Okay. Yeah, to clean up the Angular component. Okay. To let you know roughly about the NGRX. no, NGRX, RxJS. Okay. Why is it so? Okay. So RxJS is another, how to say, very high learning curve. It took me almost a week's time to study it and to go through everything. I don't think I'll cover this here because
So will you take another session for this?
we cannot complete it within an hour. If let's say we were to introduce the RxJS, we probably
Why
need
is it
to have
why is it
2 to 3 sections.
why is it used actually, RxJS? What's the purpose?
Because it is very powerful to handle the data streaming. Give you some example.
Okay.
Every time you click on an input, like if let's say you have a text box in the HTML, right, and you type something there, and it actually will trigger a observable. Then if you subscribe an observable there, right, you can actually do something with the value in the text box change. And how to say, I actually not really good at explaining the RxJS. It is a library to help you to handle the event-based action, I would say. It is really hard to tell, but yeah, I won't cover it here yet. Yeah, you can personally PM me if you want to know more. because right now we just learning the new component for now. Yeah, not to confuse people. Know about component first. Okay. Yeah, so this is the Angular lifecycle hook sequence. Yeah, I put it here. So it's actually the same as this one. It's exactly the same, just that it comes with a little bit description here, but the word is quite small. So I send the slides for you to read later. Okay. And yeah, actually I would like to cover the to-do list here, but we are really over time a lot. Yeah, I think I make it as your homework.
Good. It's good to make. We will just have this homework. Yeah, it's good to give homework and just evaluate. Yeah.
Yeah, because I won't check your homework, but if let's say you face any issue with this, right? Let me know. I am glad to help you on this. I will do some. I create a few more slides at the bottom to describe how the app should be. Okay, it will cover today's lesson, and once you're done, yeah, and you already completed this component Angular. Yeah, and yep. To recap, today I already covered what is component. It's an Angular component because Angular is a building block. So one application will have a lots of component. Okay, the component will have a nested component as well. So it depends how you build it. It's like Lego. Okay, you can generate a component using Angular CLI. I think I demoed to you just now. And I also show you the file structure of a component. Okay, and I already described to you what are the metadata available for component. Okay, yeah, I come back to you on the encapsulation and also the component lifecycle hook I mentioned just now. There are a few of them, and you can do something with the Angular lifecycle hook. Yeah, so most common one will be the ng on init and ng on destroy, these two. Okay, and I also cover the nested component, and I
What's
also
the
show you.
what's the
Sorry.
purpose of what is the purpose of ng destroy? Is it to destroy all the components, all the values?
I told you just now, right? Because in RxJS, we subscribe to something. Okay, if you don't know how RxJS work, right, probably you need to study after this whole Angular section, not now, okay? After you complete this Angular section, then I'll show you the way to learn RxJS, okay? And then from there, once you learn about the subscription, because you subscribe to something, you need to unsubscribe. If you don't unsubscribe it, the subscription will always be there, and you'll cause some memory leak in the application.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
so
very
you
true.
have to destroy it. So ng on destroy is where you need to destroy the subscription. Okay, yeah, this is what I can tell you. If I were to go deeper, right, then there'll be lots of things to tell. All right, and also I cover how to pass the data to component and getting data out from a component, and also two-way binding. Okay, and yep, that's all about today's section. I know it's a little bit rushed. Yeah, and yeah, let me show you our plan here. Okay, so today is week 2. So for those who haven't studied the week 1, you can probably go to have a look. And I already explained the basic, how to set up Angular and how to use Angular CLI and how to run an Angular application. If let's say you straight away go to week 2 or week 3, you might be a little bit confused, but you still can pick it up from week 2 onwards if you are good enough, right? And yeah, next week will be present by Ying Min. Yeah, there'll be a lot too. And the following will be Kai Kyung. All right, and then we have three slot here, and I need some volunteer because I have already presented so many weeks. It's quite tired. Yeah, I need some help from you guys. And
Yeah, but you are actually good. You are just explaining. Yeah, you are explaining very good. I think the all participants are here are very comfortable learning with you. Maybe yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
the
know,
reason.
yeah. So, but if you can take part of this sharing, right, you will learn more because I already know all of this. Yeah, if I can tell you something, right, yeah, you can learn. But if you can learn at the same time you share, right, you learn even more. Okay,
And
so
also, I would like to add, if you do volunteer for one of these week, don't worry that you'll be alone. You can always
yeah,
PM us on the side. We can help you with the slides or study together with you. So this is the whole point of study group, right? We need to
yep,
do our part as well. And if we study, not just listen to the lecture, then we can come prepared. And when we come to this session, then we can ask the question that we couldn't answer on our own when we study by
yeah,
ourselves.
you're right. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yep, and I think we already have one volunteer here. I think probably there's only 2 left. Okay, and I think I add one more week, week 8, which I will cover the deployment. I think I promised to some of you guys. That one I will do it by myself. Okay, so we have 2 more left. So any volunteer would like to share and learn, yeah, you can give the name to us. Then I put it up here. Okay,
Yeah,
and
if
yeah.
some of members can't able to finish the homework, right, to do app, so will you help in the next session?
Yeah.
Some, yeah, okay.
I actually do a sample, then I put it up here and share with you. If you
Yeah,
cannot
yeah,
finish, yeah, if
yeah,
you
okay.
like to have a look, right, you can always check the code there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So yeah, that's all from me. So any other question? Um, Check.
Mm, I think
Okay.
some of them left early and they said
Yeah.
thank you. Um,
Yeah. It's too late already.
and some of them want your contact in the WhatsApp group, but don't worry, you will soon hear from HongTat when he replies.
Yeah, I reply because I send the slide to you.
Okay. So if there's no other question, then we can continue discussion in WhatsApp or
yeah, if you have any question, want to talk with me now, yeah, you are welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can stop the recording, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
like